This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Can't you hear the pounding of my heartbeat? 'Cause you're the one I love.
And welcome back to CL 650's Boomer Life, and we're talking from NexGen Hearing to Dr. Ted Venema and Andy Rollman from the Chilliwack NexGen Clinic. And you mentioned you're in Chilliwack near the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to find.
Oh, yeah, very. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, right there in downtown Chilliwack.
Now, we're talking about the steps of getting fitted and learning about your new hearing aids, and that hand-holding is crucial. Is there, in your experience doing this now for several years, is that the better you are at explaining it and holding their hand through the process, they will wear them more often?
Absolutely.
Or because if they're not educated, can people give up?
They do.
Yep.
They will. They
Yep.
will. If you have not set the expectations properly, first of all, if you have, as a practitioner or audiologist, if you've not listened to them properly, it's ironic, isn't it, that we as practitioners need to have our ears on to listen to what it is they need and want. Okay? If you've not done that, you're doing them a disservice, and the chances are that they're going to be returning those hearing aids because you just haven't done that analysis properly.
Or they'll keep the hearing aids, but they'll be sitting in a drawer.
Right.
Right.
It's even
And
worse.
not used.
Now, with NexGen, you have this policy of you don't pay for 21 days, and then you have an additional 69 days that you can exchange them or change them. Once you've had that initial consultation, you've kind of walked together on what you're going to choose. Do most people stick with that one, or is it very uncommon for them to try something different?
Usually they will stick with it.
Yep.
Usually they will stick with it. I think if you've done that proper analysis, budget-wise as well, and if you've married all of those things together, chances are they're going to hold on to them. There is the odd case where you might have to move into a different level of product because it's not quite meeting their expectations. In that case, what we simply do is just charge a difference. Okay, so it's not as if they've now got a used car and
By the way, when you bought it last week, it was worth this.
It hasn't depreciated, so they can exchange for a different product for sure.
All right, now. We've gone through the steps of getting the hearing, adjusting and turning up the volume a little bit at a time. But there's also this whole other part of hearing aids that I didn't know until Dr. Venema and I started doing these shows together, is this wild world of connectivity, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you can connect your hearing aids to the Bluetooth in your car. You can connect your hearing aid to your Bluetooth enabled television set or your iPad or your phone. So you can FaceTime with your grandkids on the iPad.
Yep.
So what's that like when the patient realize there's a whole other world to this?
Oh yeah, there's so much to it. It's a beautiful thing actually, and you do that again in steps. Ted, you were mentioning earlier how important it is you do this in stages. You don't overwhelm them right away, and you do it as you need to do it, as it's necessary. We're finding more and more as the technology in hearing instruments is getting better and better and more advanced, that the need for, let's say, connectivity to the TV is it's there if we need it, but in some cases it's not, because the hearing aids themselves are doing such a wonderful job at picking up. But there are those more severe, more moderate
or you might have a nighthawk who wants to watch TV, but you can't have the TV going, right?
Right. Or more moderate to severe hearing losses require a better speech clarity. So you'll want that Bluetooth connectivity, because keep in mind, they're no longer listening to the TV from the speaker. Nope. They're listening to these right in their hearing aids.
Streamed through the hearing aids.
It's the sound clarity is phenomenal.
Yeah.
The one I find interesting, and you mentioned, I can't remember which line it is, where you have somebody that has a hard time hearing, but they spend a lot of time, say, with their spouse, and the spouse can wear a microphone that transmits from, say, a little lapel mic that they would wear on their blouse or their shirt to their partner sitting at the other side of the dinner table. The one I always imagine is the big, long mansion with the dining room table. One end is the wife, the other
with the butler in the middle.
Exactly. Of course.
That's right.
But, or in a loud restaurant where you go out for dinner. And so who is that for?
Well, that's a game changer.
Yeah,
it is. A lot of hearing impaired people, and especially those with severe hearing loss, have a heck of a time hearing in background noise. And restaurants with knives and forks clattering and other tables. And
just before you jump into that, you mentioned at one time the amount of volume you need to overcompensate for background noise, it goes up exponentially compared to the background
That's
noise.
right.
Can you explain that again?
Yeah.
I'm trying to paraphrase it.
If you're listening to speech in a quiet listening environment,
Like we are now.
yeah, you're normally you hear the speech about 5 decibels louder than the noise. No, and then if you can hear the speech by just slightly more than the noise, you'll get 100% of everything you hear. If the noise gets louder, the speech is spoken louder too. It has to catch up. But now the signal to noise ratio, the speech compared to noise ratio, is less. So now the speech is maybe only 1 or 2 decibels louder than the noise. If the noise increases to like 70 decibels, speech is going to try and catch up, but the noise might be 70, and guess what? The spoken speech will be like at 68. Now the speech is actually a little softer than the noise. A normal hearing person can still kind of get what's going on. A hearing impaired person has hair cell that the inner ear nerve endings are partially gone, and that person has a harder time picking out the speech from the background noise. It's not that he's a whiner and needs cheese to go with his wine. It's truly a fact that he or she needs more intensity of the speech to separate it from the background noise.
So back to this lapel microphone idea.
That is the game changer, because the spouse can wear the mic on his or her lapel, and the sound from the speaker's lips is being picked up by that mic, which a couple inches away from your mouth, and it's being sent by Bluetooth or wirelessly straight to the person's hearing aids, and that person is basically able to hear as if the speaker has his or her lips near the hearing aid. It literally brings the hearing aid figuratively closer to the mouth of the speaker. So
this is
really,
especially helpful when you're going out to dinner.
Yeah, to noisy environments.
Absolutely.
So you can hear what's going on without killing yourself trying to make out what's being said.
Because again, going back to what we talked about before, that is the tough scenario for people.
Yeah.
It's that tough listening environment where they're in a pub or they're in a restaurant or, in a loud gathering. They just cannot make out what's being said. And you have to analyze that as a specialist as well. Yeah. You have the testing that you've done is going to indicate that they have some very difficult speech issues.
Yeah.
That's part of your testing.
Yeah.
So you're going to know already, we've got speech understanding issues.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure we get as much clarity as possible.
And it's as common as the day is long. My father-in-law, just in White Rock, we go to a white spot restaurant. We find a corner in the restaurant that's the quietest. He's wearing hearing aids. He's got, but it's you have.
Hopefully,
to
you got him a deal, Dr. Ted.
Yeah, right.
Father-in-law.
But a person has to act as his or her own best advocate. Too.
Yeah.
And people have to those with hearing loss have to take control of a situation and say, hey, there's a lot of background noise here. Let's find a quieter corner.
Right,
Let's work.
right.
Let's be my best own advocate.
So how many visits does it take to get that target prescription level of volume?
Yeah. Great question again, Zach. And it's one where it varies from client to client. It really does, because I kind of I use this analogy for a lot of people. They kind of chuckle a little bit, but I say in your brain is kind of a gate. I call it a sound gate. And for many people, that sound gate is rusty. The hinges are all rusty, and the sound isn't allowed in. For some people, the oil is on the hinges, and the latch is working properly, and the gate just swings open, and that sound comes in, and they want more. Typically, after 1 or 2 weeks, you'll have many clients say, I've gotten used to this. Like, I feel like I need more. So you go in and you do your relay measurement again. You up the gain or volume, and you send them back on their way. Within a couple of months, you can be up to that target level. For other people, it can take sometimes 6, 7, 8 months. They're still hearing what they need to. They enjoy it immensely, the whole listening experience. They just don't want any more. They're fine. Thank you very much.
And at NexGen, people are welcome to come in after that 90 days for us to see them.
Lifetime.
That's a common, regular de rigueur. That's just something that's naturally part of the whole situation.
Interesting. So, as off topic, Andy.
Yes.
So you are. Let me get my other page here. You're a hearing instrument practitioner, and Dr. Venema said. So, what is the education for that? It's a several years.
Yeah, 2-year program typically.
Is that is for a young person listening to this? Is this a good career path? You think you find it rewarding?
Great. I find it extremely rewarding. I was studying myself to be a teacher.
Yeah.
I was going to be a high school teacher, and things happened along the way, and I went, I don't want to be a high school teacher. Now what? Met a good friend along the way, and one thing led to another, and here I am. I wouldn't change it for all the tea in China.
Really?
I absolutely, I think it's wonderful. One, we do have an aging population.
Yeah.
And so I think the need is great. I know for a fact the need is great.
They're at your front door, yeah.
Yeah. It's a really, really rewarding profession to get into.
All right, with the last minute, I always ask, how do you get that person in who's stubborn and won't admit that they need to have hearing aids fitted?
Wow. There's a loaded one, Ted.
It's
I
the
refer
family.
to you. You're the pro here. Come on,
It's
buddy.
the spouse that usually drags them in.
It usually is, and I love the look.
The husband might call him.
Oh yeah, you get these two people being dragged into the clinic, and the wife's got this stern look on the face, and she says, he can't hear what I'm saying," and the look on his face is, "I don't want to hear what you're saying."
The husband may be the head, but the spouse turns the neck.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's what we should have called it. You said hearing aids drive, but counselors steer.
Hearing aids drive, but the spouse steers.
Well, that's great. Well, to find out more, all you need to do is to go to NexGen and find out more. We have had in studio today from the Chilliwack NexGen office, we've had Andy Rollman and Dr. Ted Venema. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you,
And you
Zach.
guys are both Dutch. I want one of those Dutch candies.
Oh boy, droppies,
doubles
droppies,
out.
yeah,
The droppies.
droppies, yes.
All right.
Yep.
Well,
Lekker.
I'll have one off the air. We'll speak to you next time on CL 650.